All right, week 2 college football breakdown here. Really good matchup early in the day. I think this game will somewhat get overlooked, but if you watched anything last week, you should know that it shouldn't. We've got North Carolina traveling to Atlanta to take on Georgia State. This line has gone anywhere from 6.5 to 8.5. Ultimately, right now, it's at 7.5. I got to tell you, I grabbed Georgia State at plus 7.5 for 1 unit, and I also sprinkled on the money line at plus 230. This is a really feisty Georgia State team. Defensively last week, they had 3 sacks on Spencer Rattler, and that South Carolina passing offense looked pretty weak. But ultimately, what the strength of this Georgia State defense is against the run. Last week against South Carolina, their 3 running backs combined for 28 carries and totaled less than 100 yards. So this Georgia State defense can really stop the run. I really like the way their front 7 is made up. And, I think what we saw last week against the pass gives me a lot of hope coming back home and playing North Carolina. It's hard to come away with too many negatives from North Carolina when they, scored 63 points and they won. But I think anybody who watched that game knows this North Carolina team's got a ton of holes. They scored 63 points, but they allowed 40 points in the fourth quarter. Got totally gashed really all day defensively, and it finally started to kind of wear on them a little bit. They showed no discipline at the end of that game on that onside kick. Game should have been over right there. But, I have my question marks about this team as a whole. And Mac Brown did too coming into the year. This is a tough spot. Second straight road game. And, Georgia State is no slouch. In some ways, I think this is a tougher matchup than Appalachian State was last week, because while App State's got a good quarterback, they got a good run game, they're just not built in the trenches the way that I believe Georgia State is. Now, Georgia State would have been a lot more competitive last week against South Carolina. If they had just okay quarterback play, Darren Granger had a really rough go of it in Columbia. With that being said, he has shown enough throughout his career to where I am going to trust him in this spot. 4-to-1 touchdown to interception ratio last year at Georgia State. He's pretty inefficient, and I get that. But the one thing that I think can make up for that is the fact that he is a good runner. Almost 1,000 yards throughout his career at Georgia State. That quarterback run can totally flip a game on its head. I think this North Carolina secondary is a lot more attackable than South Carolina's was last week. And Georgia State can really run the football too. Their 2 running backs combined for 133 yards on just 18 carries last week in a tougher matchup at South Carolina. To see North Carolina collapse the way it did defensively in that game against App State gives me little to no confidence as to how they translate in this really tough second straight road game type of spot. The one thing that's very important in this play too, North Carolina had a terrible offensive line last year. Sam Howell is an extremely mobile guy, and he still got sacked almost as much as any other player in college football. They allowed 3 sacks a week ago. Based on a really physical front in Georgia State, I think that's something you got to watch for as being a potential issue for North Carolina. I know Drake May has looked really good here through 2 weeks, but this is a tough spot, like I said. I think this might be his toughest matchup to date, just, with the physicality of that Georgia State defense. And I wouldn't necessarily say North Carolina's run game is figured out yet. Still trying to work through, that carry rotation. I think this North Carolina team's got a lot of question marks. I grabbed this at the plus 7.5, and I'm going to sprinkle on that plus 230 money line as well for half a unit. I've actually already released my best bets here for week 2. Got those out this morning here on Wednesday. I'm looking to have the rest of my card out by Thursday. The main place you can follow me is on Twitter at Fordham Betting. I'll also leave all of my other information in the description below. One more thing too, head over to proud90.com. They got all your golf apparel needs. You see this shirt right here. I know you've been staring at it the whole time. Head over to proud90.com. Code Fordham at checkout. It's going to get you 15% off your order. All the other information will be in the description. Appreciate y'all watching the video. Listen, give credit to North Carolina. Found a way to win last week's game, but I think it's a precursor of what's to come. I think it's going to be an inconsistent team. I think Georgia State is really undervalued. I thought that game against South Carolina was a lot closer than somebody who didn't watch the game might have thought. Thought they matched up pretty well defensively with them. So I like Georgia State in this spot. I am on Georgia State as the underdog here, and I think they have a pretty good chance to win this game. So I did sprinkle on the money line as well.